were you surprised to hear about some of the challenges your peers had, things that kind of just came naturally to you as a homeschooler that were difficult for them?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the motivation part was the most surprising thing to me. Like I feel I didn't even realize, I think in high school or earlier, even in homeschooling, that I was doing it because I was motivated and that was a unique thing. I think I was just excited and I was able to pursue that excitement. And so I think it was surprising to me once I got to college that a lot of kids hadn't been operating from a place of motivation or excitement or enthusiasm before. And so I think when they got to the college where they could take so many different classes, it was incredibly overwhelming. Which again, though, there's a flip side of it. I had to take certain classes for my major that I did not want to take, and I think those were harder than they necessarily maybe needed to be for my public school peers. But I was so surprised that it was operating from a place of good GPAs and not from a place of an excitement around what they were learning.
So interesting. Sylvie, maybe you could share with us a little bit about, what really helped you coming from a homeschool background and maybe what some of the challenges were for you. And then maybe we can ask Jessica and Sebastian about some of the maybe challenges or obstacles or ways you needed to develop.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that a lot of people talk about with homeschooling is the socialization aspect, which I think is overblown. Because even when I was homeschooling, I participated in different orchestras, after school things. We had our own homeschool orchestra called Musette, but I also have anxiety issues. Um, Sometimes it's hard for me to get across to people that my anxiety issues are not because I was homeschooled. I happen to have anxiety issues and was homeschooled. Um, but it's definitely different being, I don't know, sometimes lab partners or something like that, kind of randomly stuck together with people in a class in a way that you haven't necessarily been before, depending on what kind of homeschooling you did. And just getting along with everyone, different personalities. Um, Sometimes your relationships with classmates being a little more superficial than you're used to. But I think, as I mentioned, the fact that Bard was very small was something that definitely helped me because I was still able to have that kind of personal lifeline with my professors and able to open up with them about some of my struggles and some of my not exactly learning disabilities, but some quirks that are challenging to me with learning. And they were very understanding about that, which I appreciate.
Sylvia, I just appreciate you sharing so honestly with us here in this public forum because I think that a lot of people, including myself, struggle with social anxiety, but don't necessarily have the courage to share that with others. and and because you are homeschooled, I can see how any challenge you might face could be attributed to your homeschool. Anything odd
All
or
the time. Which is
and
why I didn't tell most people that I was homeschooled.
yes, yes. And it's hard. I mean, I think, I went to both public school and private school, and I think didn't really start becoming a social person until I was in my, early 20s and spent my year abroad. So it's certainly not necessarily a cause of homeschooling. And it's good when we can find mentors and friends and people like you who are willing to express that. So thank you. And how about you, Jessica and Sebastian? Anything about homeschooling that made college harder for you? What were adjustments that you needed to make?
A big adjustment for me was being tested so often. I was used to not taking standardized tests, and I was not used to having to just like memorize information and like regurgitate it onto a test. And all my peers would be there like the night before an exam, like, I just need to memorize this and spit it out and then I can forget it. And I was horrified. I was like, a lot of you are pre-med. Like, I really hope you don't like memorize like every organ in my body and then promptly forget it. Like, that could be a little bit problematic. And it was a lot more, you're doing this because education is important versus you're doing this to get an A or you're doing this to regurgitate information. So it was a hard transition to realize that there are some courses that you won't be able to understand everything to the full depth that I wanted to be able to. It's just not realistic when you're taking a full course load. So I had to be okay with some concepts. I do just need to memorize this, regurgitate it, and some of them I just will be able to forget after this exam. And knowing when it was worth it to go down those fun research rabbit trails and like into the world of literature and, you know, the YouTube science explaining rabbit trails, and when I had to just be like, okay, Jessica, like suck it up, memorize this, go take the exam, and don't let your love and curiosity get out of hand.
I have a very similar personal problem with in this, similar to Jessica's, in that I struggled quite a bit with figuring out how to communicate that I understood and that I learned something in a way that would work for the class. So if we had a test coming up, I don't test particularly well, so it looked like I was falling behind in the class, but I felt like I knew a lot of the course material, and I wasn't quite sure how to properly express that to the teacher that, no, I do understand what's going on. I'm not, you don't need to worry about anything. I'm just not particularly good at this specific format. And then when another exam comes up or an essay or something, I can try a different method of showing, like, hey, I wrote an essay like this before, didn't quite do as well as I thought it would. And even though I feel I understand material, try it again from a different point of like creation, and then do a lot better in that regard.
It almost sounds like you had to learn how to advocate for yourself in this institutional setting.
Yeah, that definitely sounds right. I had felt that a lot of the assignments and stuff that I'd done as a homeschooler were tailored towards a lot of the ways that I can express like my understanding of a thing. And not having those specific assignments tailored to me in the same way proved a little bit of a challenge in figuring out exactly how the professor wanted me to demonstrate information and that sort of practices and stuff. So it involved a lot of talking to him in office hours.